Hello everyone, and welcome to this information session for the Ukraine Civil Society Facility. On behalf of the EU delegation, it is my great pleasure to welcome you to this thematic information session. My name is Sinziana Poiana. I work for the EU delegation to Ukraine, and I cover civil society support there. The reason you're here is because you are interested in one of the lots that make available funding for civil society organizations within our recently launched call on the 16th of June. In this session, you will hear more of why we chose this specific thematic priority, what do we expect from civil society to deliver, why do we focus on certain types of actions, why do we choose certain type of organizations to be eligible to apply and access this funding. So for the next 45 minutes or so, you will hear presentations from colleagues from the EU delegation to Ukraine who will speak to you about the specific sector you are interested in, but also we will take some of your questions that you submitted through your registration form and try to answer them as good as possible and as interesting for you as possible. A small reminder, even though you submitted questions through the registration form, do not forget to also send them to our email address and ask for official clarifications if you need them or if you have further inquiries that you would like to make. You have this possibility open until July 24. Before we move to the presentation of the specific thematic area, I would just like to recall a few elements of the call. For those of you who are not able to attend the general information session on June 22nd, please take a moment and have a look at it on EU Prosteer website. You will be able to retrieve the recording for that session and hopefully have your own presentation of what the general call is about, if it is easier for you to do it that way than by reading the guidelines. I wish you all the best of luck with the application for this call, and I do hope that this information session will be very useful for the design of your concept note and that you will finally decide to apply for this call and be successful to the next stage. Until then, deadline 14th of August, remember, stay well and safe.
So good afternoon all, my name is Marco Ferraro. I am going to talk to you now for the next minutes about lot 6 of the call that has been introduced by Cinziana a moment ago. I am the sector manager in the EU delegation to Ukraine, working on the EIDHR instrument, and this is what lot 6 concerns. So lot 6 that we're discussing now includes some priorities that are connected with advancing human rights and protecting its defenders. So looking more closely at these, in this call this year, we have focused on 3 general level priorities that you can find indicated here. I will read them also for clarity. Priority 1 is upholding social and economic rights. Priority 2 is defending digital human rights. And priority 3 is combating all forms of discrimination and promoting equality. The priorities are elaborated a bit more in detail. So social and economic rights includes land and property rights, pension rights, administrative rights, for example, right to possession of administrative documents across the country, with a particular reference to conflict-affected local communities in eastern Ukraine and IDPs, internally displaced people. Priority 2 refers to protecting freedom of expression online, right to privacy, safety on the internet, with particular reference to human rights defenders and victims of human rights violations, to monitor laws for potential human rights violations in the digital domain. And priority 3 includes gender equality and equality for persons belonging to minorities and vulnerable groups, including in Crimea. So these priorities are rather wide. There are many different types of actions that can fit into any of these areas. They are also based on the work that has been going on in the country in the field of human rights and democracy, with an eye also to anticipating future areas of threat for human rights. In the next slide, we see how these identification of the current priorities are linked to the EU policy for supporting human rights in Ukraine. Of course, the founding element is the association agreement, which has as one of its aims to further strengthening for human rights and fundamental freedom. The EIDHR instrument that we are operating here has as an overall objective also to support and strengthen civil society organizations, democracy, human rights defenders working on critical human rights. So this is the general inspiration of the EIDHR instrument, and also some areas of focus have been reaffirmed in the recent EU Action Plan for Democracy and Human Rights that was published in March this year, and it applies for the current year and until 2024. And the EU Action Plan for Democracy and Human Rights also focuses on some aspects which are singled out in this specific lot, like leveraging the benefits of digital technologies, stepping up economic, social, and cultural rights, and a stronger focus on human rights defenders. So this is the policy framework, which is useful, interesting for you to know, but for you, what is more interesting to know is what type of actions you can imagine developing under this lot. And for this, I'll move to the next slide. There is a wide type of actions that can fit under these three priorities. Actions that go from classical activities of training and capacity building to awareness raising, research, awareness raising activities like conferences and other public events, plus financial support, subgranting to third parties. Also, there are pilot activities, so you can also imagine fitting in these under this lot activities that are exactly new innovative types of actions. So what you will read in this slide is also present in the text of the call that you can access. In relation to the type of activities, we have given attention to also developing activities that are urgent for Ukraine. You will see them listed in the text of the call. So many types of activities related to the priorities indicated before can be accepted. If you have questions, and if this is not clear, if you have questions about specific activities, maybe you can also use the question and answer time now for voicing your concerns. This can be done also at a later stage before the application. So I think the lot is pretty a classical EIDHR support with an eye to detecting areas of emergence in Ukraine. I'm here available for questions and for answering your questions if there is any.
Maybe if I can just step in here, I don't know, Marco, if you're receiving questions directly, but we did receive a number of questions, very few though, through the registration forms. We have 3 questions. I don't know if you have them in front of you. If not, you can read them out.
Yes, I don't see questions.
Okay, so examples of projects on digital human rights financed before or expected to be financed. If my topic, minimize level of suicide between youth, is a right for the grant proposal. Size of projects, how many partners, applicants.
Can you please slow down, because I understood only the first one on digital rights.
Yeah, it was formulated only in one question, but the first, let's start one by one. So first, example of projects on digital human rights financed before or expected to be financed.
Well, actually, there is no previous project exactly on digital human rights in Ukraine, so I cannot answer on the basis of the past, but I can answer on the basis of what we could expect to support in this area. So this could be actions that promote freedom of expression online, actions that increase the safety of activists online. For example, training for some training, for example, for increasing the privacy, the safety of activists that have an online presence. It could be monitoring of the legal situation in Ukraine in the field of privacy, of managing users' data. So, yeah, I think these are some examples, but they are just the thing that come to my mind, and it does not mean that if you submit these, you get more points than something else. So the field of digital human rights is can go from the simple. I mean, there are many different types of actions that can fit here, and I think what I just mentioned are some cases. So again, if you read the call, you will see that again, just to repeat what I said, it can be monitoring of legal initiatives. It can be researching policy solutions, and plus also the cases I mentioned, like training, capacity building. Yeah.
Right.
Hello?
Can also go into the direction.
Cynthiana, can you please repeat what you said, because I didn't hear you after my reply.
Yes, sorry, I got disconnected there for a second. I think my internet is acting out. I was just saying, so possibly we'll go into mitigating negative effects of digitalization on human rights. Yeah. So the next question is, if my topic, minimize level of suicide between youth, is the right for the grant proposal. So we discussed in the previous sessions as well, and in the general information session yesterday, that basically we will not be able to answer to you, is this project suitable or is not. As a general rule, when you submit your application, it needs to be basically in line with the priorities. So this is a topic that will be evaluated. You will not be excluded if the topic doesn't really fit into the priority. However, you will be evaluated against it. Yeah. So we evaluate this is part of the criteria of the evaluation of the concept note, the relevance of the action proposed, to the priorities of the call. So we cannot answer on minimizing the level of suicide between youth, but you know, if you can justify a link between, you know, cyber activity and the social problem itself, then I guess this would be something that we would for sure look at and evaluate. Margot, am I is this correct, or
correct?
do you have any?
Yes.
Okay, so moving on to the next question, the size of project. So the minimum and the maximum size of the project, if you have mentioned it in your presentation, Marco, maybe you can recall it.
Yeah, no, I didn't mention it. It's of course indicated in the text of the call, but the range goes from a minimum of 150,000 euros to a maximum of 350,000 euros.
Okay, how many partners applicants should have?
Minimum 1, maximum 5.
Okay, next question. Is the topic development of a game about human rights interesting? Well, you know, I mean, same answer as before. I mean, you know, to both of us, I guess it can sound interesting on spot, but of course, it would depend on the quality of your proposal and what you plan to achieve. Again, as I mentioned yesterday, this goes for the full call. You know, for us, the most important thing is how do you present your problem identification and how do you plan to address it, and showing that your organization or the group of organizations that you are proposing as implementers for the project have the capacity and are in the best position to implement that specific project. So you know, independently on the topic, it is, you know, it's up to you, and of course on the core business of your organization. But we will assess what you send to us. So
yes, indeed, it's difficult. I mean, to answer if it is interesting or not, we need to. There are many ways to promote human rights, and if a game can be a good tool for promoting human rights, perhaps yes, but we need to see the consistency and the quality of the proposal. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Good. So are the rights of the child included in Lot 6 human rights?
A project relative to the rights of the child could fit under I mean, it's not excluded, it's not indicated as such as a priority, but if you can establish a link between the 3 priorities and supporting rights of the child, a project could be assessed and eventually also selected. So it depends on the angle you want to use. You can use the angle of safety of children online. It depends what type of project you want. If you want to use the angle of avoiding discrimination and promoting equality among children, that's another way to do. Maybe depends on your what is the subject of your proposal.
Mm-hmm. Okay, maybe I can complement here. So basically under Lot 5, Rule of Law and Justice, there we do have, as part of justice reform, if you are interested in rights of the child implementation and, you know, the technicality of rights of the child defense, including juvenile justice, there we do have a specific focus on rights of the child. So if you're interested in that topic specifically, then you may want to look at that a lot as well. Now we have a number of questions. Marco, actually, I'm not sure if they come to you as well, but I will just go through them. Can you clarify if INGOs are eligible to submit a concept note? International organization is not defined, but could, for example, a Danish NGO be a lead applicant under this lot?
Sorry, I was trying to read the chat because I'm not getting the questions. But international, certainly yes. The short answer is yes. A Danish NGO could certainly apply for this lot. There is no geographic limitation to the nationality of NGOs that can submit proposals.
If I can add to this, because I think part of the question was also, international organization is not defined. In fact, again, you really need to actually all the information you need on eligibility, on whether you are allowed to receive this funding out of this call, is in the guidelines. Yeah, an international organization is different from a civil society organization. So civil society organizations are registered. That are registered are eligible for all lots of this call, including lot 6. In footnote 14 on page 21, I believe, of the guidelines, you will find the definition of civil society organizations. We don't treat INGOs as an international organization. An international organization for us is a legal entity that is registered as an international organization. This means UN, Council of Europe, so any legal entity that is covered by a treaty that recognizes this organization as an international organization, intergovernmental organization, or so on. So there are specific, international agreements that would recognize an international organization as an international organization. This is what we mean. An INGO for us is a civil society organization that is, still is registered in one country, and where your headquarters is registered, depending on whether you have an affiliate in Ukraine or not, that's what your relative benchmark is as to the eligibility criteria. Yeah, so I do invite you to really read very closely the definition of civil society, and look at the legal form of your organization if you have any doubt. For us, it is very difficult, even if you send us clarification questions, to answer to you on eligibility questions. Because unless we have the proposal, unless we have your statutes, and in any case, we will not look at your statutes at this particular moment in time. So you need to make a judgment based on the definitions that you have available to actually see whether you qualify to apply for this funding or not. There are some exceptions to this. So for example, the International Red Cross, the International Committee of the Red Cross, is one of the few international organizations that are also civil society organizations recognized in the Fundamental Treaty of the European Union. So unless you are one of those 3 very specific cases in the TFEU, then this does not apply to you. That being said, indeed, just a second, what Marco said, the EIDHR funding is open to all organizations, all civil society organizations registered anywhere in the world. Okay, next question. Does this lot include protection of the rights of life sentenced prisoners?
So, yeah, thank you. Now I stopped at the share screen so I can read the chat. I also see the questions now. I don't think I can answer that question just with this one line. It depends on the on whether the proposal again has a link to the 3 priorities that are identified for this lot. So you need to be able to submit a proposal that has a link with these three wide definitions, these three wide priority areas. One is upholding social and economic rights, another one digital human rights, and the third combating any form of discrimination and promoting equality. So if you're this is the same answer that I gave for the game. If a game promoting human rights is acceptable, it's difficult to say yes or no at this stage. You need really to develop a concept note, keeping in mind what the priorities are, and once you have devised a concept of your project, then we can assess it.
Next, are the CSOs not based in Ukraine, but working with a number of Ukraine's partners eligible as applicants under Lot 6?
This one I could not read. It was if a CSO not based in Ukraine, if they are eligible.
Yeah, but working with a number of Ukrainian partners.
The answer is yes, definitely. As we said a couple of minutes ago, there is no geographic criteria for applying to this lot in Ukraine. The criteria is that simply the geographic criteria. The only geographic criteria is that the actions needs to be carried out in Ukraine.
Are there any requirements that the CSO applicant, the lead applicant, would have previous experience in applying for Europaid grants?
There is no strict requirement as such. Not at this stage. This is not a requirement, though. Not for the concept note, but of course, previous experience and capacity to manage projects might play a role in a later stage in the selection of the full applications.
How many projects are you planning to support in each of the respective lots?
Well, I will answer only for this lot. If you take the size of this lot is €1 million, the range of the minimum range is 150,000, the maximum range is 350,000. So we are expecting to receive about 3 to 6 projects in this lot, simply by calculating how many projects we can finance with the available funds.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, for all the lots, if you look at the total amount available per lot and the minimum EU contribution, if you divide the total amount available by the minimum contribution, you will find the maximum number of projects that we would be able to finance. However, you will notice some small print in the guidelines here and there saying that what guides us is the quality of the proposals. Yeah. If the quality of the proposals is high, they will be financed. Some of them, if it's like very high and we don't have enough funds, some proposals may be reserve listed and could be financed in the next 1 to 2 years. At the same time, if there will be lots where we don't receive enough proposals that have at least a moderate level of quality, we also have the right not to finance any proposals. So it's really up to how good the projects are. This is really the sole indicator. The EU has been investing a lot of funds into civil society's work in Ukraine. This is a very big call. A lot of money is available. However, we do not have to spend it all, or we can find another way to spend it also towards civil society if the quality of the project is not at the desired standards. So again, this is an opportunity to encourage you all to really dedicate time to think about your project, about how you construct your partnership for all lots, in order to come with a valuable and a meaningful proposal. Can one, as an applicant, make the conclusion that those lots that have the largest funding have the biggest priority for the European Commission? No. You can definitely not make this conclusion. The size of the amount allocated to the lots, and and by the way, we also have the possibility between certain lots to reallocate funds. If we receive more quality proposals under one lot, we also have this possibility to reallocate and fund more proposals under one lot versus the other. The size of the lots and the priorities themselves were dictated by a number of factors. First, the funding instruments that we had available that had their own priorities. So, for example, our global program on capacity building of civil society organizations is very focused on sustainability. So you will recognize that in Lot 1, Sustainable Development. Same with this Lot 6, yeah? So we have funds from a targeted EU regulation, which is the European Instrument for Democracy and Human Rights, that has its own specific rules and its own specific priorities. And then when you do the translation of this EU global policy in Ukraine, you end up with priorities such as those that you see now under Lot 6. Another very important element, and this I discussed also in the information session that we delivered yesterday, was the consultations that we had with civil society organizations in Ukraine, and also with our partners, international donors, to see where within the civil society's work there are funding gaps and more needs. Yeah, so that was another very important factor. And third, for the past 2 to 3 years, we have been conducting a number of sector mappings within civil society in Ukraine. So the philosophy of this call is a little bit to focus also on the specificities of sector focused organizations. So we looked at past data, so the data that potential applicants make available through PADOR, that refers also to your financial capacity, the number of employees. So this is very important data for us to know how much or how little civil society organization can absorb. So this basically was the main driver for the amounts that you see available for different types of grants. Yeah. So all of this is what gave this list of priorities, and of course, what are the main problems in Ukraine? Yeah, what needs to be addressed, and what can be addressed within the timeline that this cost proposals would make available. Considering that it will be about 9 to 10 months until the projects funded under this call would basically start operating. So that's another element that we have to take into account. Investing in projects that basically would be either easier to adjust to this time lag between project development and project implementation, and also investing in issues that need long-term effort, that cannot really be fixed in 6 to 7 months time. So I hope that answers this last question. Can an organization submit CN targeting for lot 5 and 6 at the same time? Yes, it is possible to submit multiple applications under multiple lots at the same time. However, please note this restriction that you may be awarded only one grant. So if you do submit quality proposals that would make it forward in this evaluation process under all lots, we will continue to evaluate them, and then at the end we will finance only that one that we find to be basically better than the other. So you may, but this is your own strategy, yeah? And how do you assess your resource investment, and how do you prioritize and calculate your odds? So we of course did not want to put any benchmarks, because for us it is again quality that matters. So if you do submit a lot of proposals in all the lots, you will leave it up to us to choose one if all of them make it through the evaluation process. I believe this, Marco, did you receive any other questions privately?
No.
Okay, so I think this is it with the questions. Any final words, Marco?
No, just looking forward to seeing so many good quality concept notes for this lot, and I hope you will share your ideas and translate them into project proposals.
Okay, then on this note, thank you very much to everyone for having attended this session as well. I saw that some of you have been with us since the morning, or your fourth session. If you will be joining us tomorrow, then we'll see you tomorrow. If not, then I hope that as many of you will be able to attend the training on drafting a concept note on Thursday, and of course other subsequent trainings that we will have further towards mid-July. Those are intended to basically refresh the principles of drafting your concept note, assuming that you will be working for the next 2-3 weeks on this concept note, and that you will have different type of questions. I see a final question that came in, so I will just briefly answer it. What percentage of own financing should be on this lot? As a matter of principle, all the lots need to have at least 10% co-funding. However, for this lot, full financing is also possible should you provide a strong enough justification. The justification needs to show that you are not that us fully financing this proposal is absolutely necessary for its implementation, whatever this would mean in the context of your proposal. So on that note, do join us for future sessions. Thank you very much to all of you for the attention, and I wish you all a good afternoon. Thank you very much, Marco, and the UProSteer team for joining us and helping organize the sessions today. So I'll see you all either tomorrow or the day after, I hope. Bye.
Bye-bye.